did get it.
4 pause 5.
Yeah, I did get it.
In 2004, she swore she'd never return to politics, but just 13 years later, Pauline Hanson is back. She's got a new party, her name's up in lights, she's draped herself in the Australian flag, and there's even a party song. The former One Nation leader is as defiant as ever and is demanding a moratorium on Muslim immigration.
So why then, after death threats, a stint in the big house and a barrage of attacks from all political fronts, is Pauline Hanson so desperate for a seat in the Senate? Well, Pauline joins us this morning to share her vision for Australia. Good morning again, Pauline.
Good morning. Hello, David Kim.
It's been a couple of big weeks in politics. Let's just deal with that first. What do you feel about the leader of the ALP being discovered visiting a strip club in New York?
What are we talking about, 4 years on?
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Honestly, who really cares? I think the public are really concerned about what are your policies, what is Labor going to do for them? And, you know, when you have farmers are being walking off their properties, suicides happening, the young kids not being able to own their own homes or buy their own homes, let's look at the real issues here. OK, it's been raised. OK, so what? Move on.
Well, just before we get on to the policies of your new party, also want to talk to you about the Howard and Costello relationship. Now, again, it's interesting, isn't it? It's come up so many years later, his comments. Is that damaging, do you think? Can you put your faith in a party where you know that there's such a struggle?
People want stability about leadership, and people would like to know if they're going to be voting for John Howard, that he will be there for a term to lead the party on after he's elected. Yes, it is, and I think it is a grave concern. Personally, and the public have rejected that they want Peter Costello as to be the leader of the Liberal Party, and that's quite known. I personally don't like Peter Costello. And
sorry, do you mean the public or do you mean the party?
The public, and also the party, because they've voted on this in the party room, who they want as leader of the party. Now, they've made a decision on that, and they've chosen John Howard. Now, the public also have responded that they don't like Peter Costello to lead the party. Now, my personal opinion, I don't like Peter Costello.
Why not?
Because he's an economic rationalist, he's for globalisation, and he's a Republican. And I don't think he would be very good for Australia and my view with politics.
Have the Liberal Party not done all right so far, though, in 10 years in government?
Oh, under the leadership of John Howard. The economic stability of the country is going extremely well. And the younger
Isn't that under the stewardship of the Treasurer, though?
And John Howard as well. He is the leader as well. You know, there's difference between being the Treasurer and being the Prime Minister on a lot of issues. And if people can look back, and of course the younger generations will have no idea of this, because we're going back 10 years ago, when the Labor Party had such high interest rates, high unemployment, and there was about a $96 billion debt that the Liberal Party took over. That's all been pulled back. And I'm not defending John Howard, because there are a lot of things there that I oppose of what he's actually imposed on the Australian people. So as far as I'm concerned, the party have made a decision. They're going into election now. John Howard is the leader. Get on with the job.
All right, let's talk about some of your policies. You would like to see immigration, particularly Muslim immigrants, scaled back. Tell us why.
Look, it's my concern as well, and I have received hundreds and hundreds of emails from Australians all over the country who are supporting my call for this. Mainly in the cities in Sydney, Melbourne and Perth as well. They see the number of Muslims that have moved into these areas now are actually forcing their views, their cultural beliefs into their communities.
How so?
Well, in the shopping centres, they don't play Christmas carols because it offends Muslims. In the schooling, yes, and it's really quite common, because people are actually phoning up on Talkback Radio talking about this. People are offended by, in the schools now, that they will not sing Christmas carols because it is offending others, Muslims.
It's not just Muslims, though, Pauline, is it? I mean, it may well be people of Jewish faith, it may be Muslims, it may be Buddhists. Is that not...
Kim, this was never a problem previously, but it is now. I had emails from young girls, 21, 22, said I was on a train, I was abused by Muslim Lebanese, and I'm saying not all Lebanese are Muslims, and some Lebanese are lovely people. But the thing is, they were abused, the way they were treated, talked to, because of the way they were dressed. And a lot of the young girls are actually talking about this. This is actually happening to them. There is no respect for the women, and especially when the leaders of these Muslim communities say, well, if these girls get out there dressed like that, you deserve everything that you get.
Sheikh Halali certainly sparked outrage, didn't he?
Exactly right. So people are irate about this. People are irate. Now, there was a woman in South Australia who was allowed to wear the hijab, you know, the burqa,
Yes.
full cover, and have a picture taken for a driver's licence, or walking into a bank. Now, where's the equality? Where's the set of rules here? And this is where it's slowly changing. And the public see this on a daily basis. And the politicians have to get out and listen to the public and listen to the way their lives are changing in these communities.
So what do you propose to do?
What you need to do is put a moratorium on it. Surely we need to look at what's happened in England, France, Germany. I even got an email from a fellow in Norway saying, Pauline, you are right. He said, Muslims have more rights in this country than I do now in my own homeland. And it's come out just recently in the health service in Scotland. They said you cannot eat your lunch at your desk anymore in the hospital because you're going to offend the Muslims and the Ramadan. So all these things are slowly being imposed, and people are frightened to speak out about it because they're frightened for their safety.
Pauline, do you think that civil libertarians have gone too far? I mean, you spent 3 months in jail. You were acquitted. That it was later quashed.
Yeah.
And yet where was everyone lining up to support you like they were, you know, for instance, Dr. Mohammed Hanif?
I did have my supporters there, and the public, and I've got to thank the public for this, they never just disregard it and let it go away.
Did you have offers from top level solicitors, barristers, QCs to look after you and take on your case pro bono?
Not paid for. Only one barrister came out who wanted to work on the case because he truly believed in me, and that's Keith Howe from Brisbane, and I do thank Keith for that. But the other ones, they all got their money, they got paid for it. But the only one who actually did come out in my defence was Bronwyn Bishop, and she screamed from the rooftops for me. And I've had some other high-profile people, and I've got to say Alan Jones, he never gave up on me. He spoke about it every day, so people wouldn't forget about my wrongful imprisonment.
Must have been a horrendous experience, though.
Kim, it was a horrendous experience, but I've tried to get on with my life. That's happened. I've learnt from my experiences. Isn't it funny where life puts you? Because my time in prison, I was able to help a couple of other people, and one woman who was in there was in prison for murder. That my assistance, she ended up with a retrial and was found not guilty. And now there was an inquiry by the CMC into how the police handled her case. So she's actually been able to get on with her life.
Pauline, you've recently said that you support Howard's Aboriginal Intervention Initiative.
Yes.
What's so worthy about it? Why have you supported that?
David, I was called a racist because I called for equality and things need to be done. There's a lot that people don't know that I actually had Aboriginals, communities who actually approached me, came to me and said, Pauline, these things are happening. We are being suppressed. We don't know who we can trust or go to, who's going to speak up on behalf of us. ADSIC, which I actually called to be abolished, was an industry that was using the people and using the Aboriginal people to further their own cause, and it was all about money. And these people were screaming out. When I went to Palm Island, I sat down and spoke to the Aboriginal women. They said, our hospitals are not servicing the people that we need, you know, for our women here. Our children are 2 years behind. I had Amelia Campbell come to me at a press conference in 1998, full of press, just before the election. She arrived with about 12 or 15 other women and their children. She came up, she held my hand up and she said, Pauline, and to the media she said, we have been hoping and praying for someone like Pauline Hanson to come along and help us. Our women are being bashed and raped and our children are on drugs in the streets.
Is that why you
and
put
the
your hand up
media
again?
the media never printed one word, but went on continually calling me a racist.
Is that why you want to have another go at politics? I think this will be your fifth go, is it? Fourth or fifth go at getting into Parliament again?
Kim, every election that I've stood for, I've won it on the primary vote. I've lost it on preferences. That's why people have to give me that number one vote. And if you have a look at it, when I stood in 2001, I had the criminal charges over my head. Right? In 2004, I ran a 3-week campaign, yet I polled the 5th highest vote and the highest personal vote below the line. I beat Barnaby Joyce, but preferences destroyed me.
So this is behind the reason for the new party, isn't it? Pauline's United.
Pauline's United.
Explain that. Explain why you've decided that's the name. It's to do with the allocating of preferences and so on, isn't it?
I had to form a political party to get my name above the line. If you don't have your name, if you're not a registered political party, you cannot have your name above the line, and you have it below the line. So people saw Pauline Hanson put one in the box, didn't fill out every other square,
Yes.
and the vote was invalid. So this allows me to get above the line.
Okay, and is it a registered party yet? It's still in the process.
It's going through the process. It hopefully by mid-September, towards the end of September, to have it registered.
But what happens if you don't?
I still stand, and I stand as an independent.
Right.
All right, well, let's talk about electoral funding. Now, my producer told me on Friday that you would not come on the show if I asked you about electoral funding.
Kim...
So obviously now I have to ask you.
Well, you've raised it, Kim, and the whole fact is, how many other politicians have you had sitting here and you asked them about electoral funding?
Well, it's not quite the same issue, though.
Why?
Well, they've been in politics in one party. You've chopped and changed along the way.
I haven't.
Yes, you have.
Where?
Well, this will be your fifth go at having an attempt at Parliament.
Chopped and
but I'm
changed
interested.
about, no, chopped and changed about what? No. I went into Parliament in 1996 as an independent. I formed Pauline Hanson's One Nation, and I stood for 98, 2001. Under that name, I stood as an independent in 2004.
And then now you're not with One Nation. Now you've got Pauline's new party.
What is the problem with that?
Well,
have
I'm
you
interested
asked John
to know.
Howard?
But Pauline, I'm interested to know why you would make a comment like that and threaten to walk out. I mean, surely Australians need to feel that they have free access to you, and journalists certainly want to have free access to you.
Because I have spoken about this issue time and time again about it, and I feel I'm the only one that's targeted with this. I've never heard any other politician asked about electoral funding. I've got it up on my website. If people want to go and have a look at it, paulinehanson.com.au.
Well, the reason why people ask about it, Pauline, is because you've been accused of simply doing this to get electoral funding, just to get the money. and you know that that's what they've accused you of. I mean, it's been in papers.
Can I tell you something? I'm not getting the money.
Oh, is it going to charity now?
I'm not getting the money. The party will be registered under Pauline's United Australia Party. Now, you get John Howard in here and you get Kevin Rudd in here and you ask them, are they doing it for the money, right? Because I take that as a complete insult.
I'm only repeating what's being reported, though.
An absolute insult to me to suggest that I am only doing it for the money.
I'm not suggesting, I'm just repeating
in future,
some of the comments, though,
every person you're going to have in here who's standing for the next election, I hope you ask them that question.
Well, if it's an issue, I most certainly will.
Why is it an issue with me?
Well, I mean, you know it's an issue because every time you do a media interview, they ask you about it. It's constantly in the papers, and people want to know.
To pull me down, to actually try to denigrate me in the eyes of the public again about what I'm doing it for.
So you have a legitimate chance of winning the seat?
I can assure you that my imprisonment was political. Have no doubt about it. Why?
I think there are plenty of people who agree with you on that.
Because they want to get me off the political scene, because I was never to run for Parliament again. Why? Because I'm going to be honest with the Australian public, as I always have been, to actually be a true voice for them, to raise the issues, to tell them what the hell is going on in this country. And that's why it was to shut me down.
But didn't you say that you weren't ever going to stand for political office again?
Kim, when you come out of prison after you've been through that in prison and you know that it was because of politics, this has happened. And it took me quite some time to get over that. My daughter cried when I told her I was going to stand for Parliament again, because she said, Mum,
so
why do you put yourself through this? Because I can see the problems that are happening here. Do you ever get out into the bush? Do you ever go and see how the farmers are struggling? Do you ever
you'd be surprised, yes.
Yes, and who's representing them? Who's speaking up on their behalf? Who's speaking up on the kids and the youth suicide? Who's speaking up about child support and all these issues? Who's speaking up about the immigration and what our country is going to look like in time to come? Who spoke out about the Aboriginal issue that years ago I was criticised for and called racist, but now the government's picked up a lot of my policies and issues and actually addressing them? So the people want someone in Parliament who's going to be truthful and honest. They might not agree with everything that I say.
They do want someone who's truthful and honest, Pauline.
To get up and say it.
But I had to make people aware of the fact that you had threatened to walk off the show if I asked you about electoral funding.
I'm still sitting here, Kim. I'm still sitting here.
So why make the threat then?
Because I've had a gutful of being asked about this electoral funding as if it is the issue why I stand for Parliament. And that really amazes me. Me, of all people, after everything that I've been through, that I'm still prepared to want to stand up and represent the Australian people. Because you know what? There's no one there that I trust to raise the issues and speak on my behalf in this country. And if there was, I'd get right behind them. But you know, there's no one there that I feel has got the integrity or this country at heart or the Australian people to represent me.
All right. Well, it's been lovely having you on the show. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and I'm glad that you didn't get up and follow through with your threat and walk off.
Thank you, Kim.
And David.
Thank you for your time, Pauline.